Chapter 14. Instigators. Fox and Kendrick had arrived near the docking coordinates some time ago. It was only a 25-minute flight from his home. King had found them while they were riding the Halo, the highest set of cables, a freeway roundabout anchored above the center of Angel City. The city itself was composed of 5 interlocking districts around a 6th central hub. The hub, also known as Executive District 01, was a cylindrical assemblage of the tallest buildings, anchored together at the center of the anti-gravity metropolis. Ed served the higher functions of the city-state. It housed the most exclusive restaurants and hotels. It was designed for and populated by the richest of the rich. Simply appearing out of place was enough to invite investigation by the hyper-alert security guards. Having the wrong answers to their questions guaranteed a quick ride down the gravity well. Around this central hub, the other districts were composed of rolling sheets of beryllium stacked above and below, and then programmed to hold to a specific set of coordinates and elevation, resembling steel and glass petals of some massive flower. King and Fox invisibly descended toward the central hub, where Fuji Dozo would be docked. Fox had requested a secure ground route to the meeting, as well as isolation of the prerequisite docking lanes. Consequently, the access streets and local cafes around Executive Suites West were packed with black-suited professional thugs. Unseen, Fox and King landed on the main street, a short distance from the circular canyon separating the central hub from the media district. "Looks like everyone here is GOV, King said. "The regulars are smart enough to get the hell out of Dodge on a day like Mama said." King gestured at the mercenaries infesting the area. "I'll give you $100 if you can get one of these ass clowns to fire a shot in anger." Fox laughed. "How much time do we have?" "An hour at least," King answered. The well-dressed but heavy-set young men had deliberately parked their expensive cars illegally up and down the block, ready for a quick getaway. They laughed and joked amongst each other, mock fighting and teasing. There were few females among the mercenaries, but those present appeared more dangerous than their comrades. Fox caught sight of a few execs stepping out of one of the parking structures. They stopped on the sidewalk and silently looked at the mercenaries occupying the benches and chatting in small groups. The executives had been heading for the closest coffee shop, but seemed to be considering turning away and heading toward their building instead. One of the men pushed forward while the other two waved their goodbyes and headed for a business building lobby. "Here we go," Fox said, invisibly falling into step behind the young executive. King laughed, which prompted the exec to look around, but seeing nothing, he proceeded into the coffee shop. The invisible Fox followed him, holding the door briefly for King. King whispered to Fox, $100 if you can start a fistfight that doesn't even involve gunplay." "Coffee first," Fox whispered. He made his way over to the drink bar and waited in an empty corner. King powered up his gravity harness and jumped to the ceiling, where he could watch without worrying about accidentally bumping into someone. The executive who'd come in before them found himself bullied at every turn. He was bumped, jostled, and openly pushed, all before he even got in line. The mercs left the man in peace until his pocket was picked as he exited the shop. King and Fox watched as the group of thugs went to work on the executive's credit chip, ordering drinks for themselves and their friends. Fox easily swiped a couple of upcoming drinks and delivered one to King, floating above the chaos. "Okay, watch this," Fox said as he descended again into the fray. Fox inverted himself between 2 sets of occupied booths. Given their more expensive suits and lazy haircuts, the men at the table to his left were most likely private security officers, ironically hired by the very corporations whose employees they had been terrorizing all morning, while the table on his right looked to be feds with the bureau, given the uniform haircuts and cheap suits. One of the private security guys was telling a joke, and just before the punchline, Fox reached over and flicked a fed's ear. The agent looked over his shoulder, just as the other table burst into laughter. The ear-flicked agent didn't even hesitate, but slapped the long-haired security man hard enough to bounce his head off the table, blasting through his cup of hot coffee and splashing his friends in the process. Fox leapt away from the table and heard King laughing above. Together they followed the arguing mercenaries outside, where a vulgar epithet-filled fistfight commenced. The fight ended when the security man, whose face had been burned, beat the ear-flicked man unconscious. Their comrades had drawn their weapons, but no one had fired. Floating above it all, King handed Fox a $100 bill, laughing as the regular civilians fled the area. As they sipped their still steaming coffee, King took advantage of the opportunity to question his old friend. "How long have we known each other now?" King asked. "Since '88, Fox answered. "I was still a corporal back then. Fox gestured, and they ascended on a slow arc toward Fujidozo. 20 years, Tarn. Fox addressed First Sergeant King by the abbreviated version of his call sign, Tarnung. King laughed. And in all that time, I never once suspected that we would end up filching coffee and causing trouble like 7th graders with a death wish. I mean, we're an hour from being found out, and when they open those files, they will arrest every one of us and have us put down. You know that, and we're out here clowning around. Hey now, Fox said. You think I have a death wish? Don't you? Yeah, well, don't we all? Look, seriously, I need to ask you, what the hell are you doing out here? What do you mean? I mean, I'm not doing anything. I'm letting things happen as they happen, one day at a time. Epsilon? A tragedy. A complete tragedy. But I didn't do it. Wasn't even there. What bomber have you ever met that sticks around to see the bomb? The whole point of a bomb is you ain't there. It's not exactly proof of guilt. How many cabinet ministers and politicians have lost their minds due to my chronics exposure? On record, 0, Fox answered. Clever, King replied. Stanwood ain't buying it, though. And that call to Dr. Tay didn't help your case any. Hey, big boss man, don't worry so much. They can't do anything to us. Trust me on this, would you please? Ross is on his last legs, and correct me if I'm wrong, but so are you, and so is Anna. Oh, come on, that's 6 months. A nap is all that is. Look around you. We are intergalactic, my friend. We are stardust. We are everywhere and nowhere. The 9 of us? We have nothing to fear from Stanwood, that mental midget. I wouldn't let him wash my car. He's not an authority over us. He's not an expert. He's an alcoholic and an idiot. He's going to unravel this whole thing if you don't stop him. He's got the bit between his teeth and he is working it. You need to put that dog down. Give the word and wham, he's out of the picture, out of the park. Have a nice ride. No, don't, Fox said as he sipped his steaming brew. Damn, this coffee's good. So if I may also ask, so what do you have lined up for this little meeting we're going to? Nothing special, Fox answered. I'm kind of curious about it myself. Word on the street is, Stanwood has everything he needs to get the warrant to put you down. There is no warrant. If he flashes one at you, it's fake. Brother, he will never see me coming. I'll tell you that right now. If there is an ambush, don't fire until fired upon. I mean it. If someone turns a gun on you, I will shoot that someone. Let them get off 1 round first. Are you serious? I'm serious. I'm making this a standing order. If anyone ever pulls a gun on me, let them get off 1 shot before you intervene. You're the boss, but I'll tell you that is messed up. Hey, look at me. Everything I'm wearing is Terrellium threaded. Do you know how much this suit cost? 1.4. $3 million in bulletproof material. So they have to make it count. Fine. I still think it's a stupid idea. King raised his hand. Another question. Can you use that instead of a gravity rig? No. Coding would be too complex to manage it realistically. You're talking about 1 million different poles. It's just way too hard to program that. You need some seriously refined threads too. And then you get issues with how brittle the material is. It's not feasible. Hey, don't get me wrong, the harness works great. That is something, isn't it? You can't even see mine, can you? Not at all, King answered. The lines of Fox's suit were not affected despite the shoulder vest and gravity belt he wore beneath his jacket. I still don't get why you don't just take him out. Because it's the wrong thing to do. Besides, I've got you guys. Alright, well, don't say I didn't warn you, King said. Chapter 15. Jim Croswell. Sitting on a couch in Director Stanwood's office, the big, gruff, and surly Secretary of Defense, Jim Croswell, blinked in a shaft of sunlight. Wow, I just realized something right now, just this moment. What's that? Stanwood asked, rising from his desk and crossing to a small office bar where he fixed some glasses of premium scotch. Stanwood was under no delusion that he would get Jim to move from the couch until he'd said what he had to say. It was you, wasn't it? Croswell smiled. Of course it wasn't. Stanwood paused. Well, maybe. It could have been. What are we talking about? Stanwood poured them both 3 fingers of scotch and carried the glasses over to the table, setting one before Jim and holding his carefully as he took a seat on the opposite couch. Von Calta ignored them from across the room, staring out the window. Epsilon I had nothing to do with, Stanwood said. Stanwood and Croswell knocked glasses. Scotch also happened to be another area where their tastes overlapped. a common interest not shared with Dr. Fox, much to Stanwood's delight. Croswell gestured toward Von Kalt and raised his drink. Stanwood shook his head. "Oh, come on," Croswell objected. "Hey," Croswell called out. Von Kalt looked over. "Fix yourself a drink and come on over here. You're going to want to hear this one." "His Majesty just got through saying you're the defender of secrets." "Not your secrets, old pal. His. Besides, this isn't a secret. Not really." Von Kalt poured himself a generous measure of the amber alcohol and took one of the several available chairs round the coffee table. Von Kalt leaned forward, knocked glasses with both Secretary Croswell and Stanwood, and took a swallow from his glass. "Do you know why Joseph here hates Dr. Fox? Because sophomore year, the girl Joe liked wanted Andy instead. That's the reason. You see, Joe absolutely hates Andrew Fox. And who wouldn't? The kid was cool. You have to give him that. The girls love him, and I mean love him. But they don't love you, do they, Joey?" Croswell laughed, teasing his friend. "Get to your point, would you?" Stanwood wasn't offended, only bored. "Fox was never scared of you. Everyone else was. Even I was." "You were never afraid of me," Stanwood said. "You have no idea how scary you are." Croswell raised his drink. "These compliments, you're going to make me blush," Stanwood returned the toast. "But my point is Wendell Meyer." Stanwood rolled his eyes. "Back when we were in 7th grade, I think it was still first or second week of school, Wendell Meyer was a new kid in our class. He was a year younger than all of us, incredibly smart, kind of skinny, and frail. He was 3 years younger than us," Stanwood recalled. "Oh yes, that's right. He'd tested up. Smart kid." Croswell sipped at his scotch. "Well, one day after swimming, Wendell slipped and got trapped under the hydraulic pool cover. We were all back there, watching how it worked, and we got too close. Wendell always said he didn't slip. He claimed that he got pushed, or bumped, that he didn't know who did it. No one ever saw who did it, and no one ever confessed. Fox and Stanwood had been the two guys closest to him, but we were all there. It could have been any of us, really. Fox went home from school every day that year, and then spent all summer working on his first invention, his first creation. He came back at the beginning of 8th grade with the blue goo. Of course, it was a lot more concentrated back then, but it worked. It worked like magic. You see, Wendell was laid up all year. He had a grip of pins in his knee. The doctors wanted to replace it altogether, but because he was so young, he would have had to have at least 2, maybe 3 more replacement surgeries before 25. A little more pain now would save him a lot more pain in the future, was how his mom figured it. And with major replacements, he'd be ineligible to participate in sports. Even though he was a nerd, she didn't want to take that away from him. "Wait a second. Wendell Meyer, the tennis star?" Von Kalt asked. "Yup," Croswell answered. "He really made his money in ping pong," Stanwood added. "Oh yeah, he's got that Scientific Principles of Ping Pong series, right? He wears a blue wrap on his knee," Von Kalt said. "Yup," Croswell answered. "The parents eat that crap up." Stanwood drained half his scotch. "And Fox created the blue goo for him?" Von Kalt looked into his glass. "Well, there's your answer, isn't it?" "What's that?" Croswell asked. "Fox bumped this kid, Wendell, and he created the goo because he felt guilty about it," Von Kalt said. Stanwood smiled. "No, that's not what happened. I suspect Stanwood here did the bumping, and Wendell knew, didn't he?" "Honestly," Stanwood set his glass on the table, "I don't know. Sometimes over the years I've thought maybe it was me. Sometimes I remember I wasn't that close to him. It doesn't matter. We were just kids. Maybe I teased him a bit that week, but I never pushed him. Whatever happened, it certainly wasn't on purpose. My conscience is clear." Croswell smiled. "It's also true that when Fox brought in that huge tub of goo, we had our little testing session, and you didn't participate. All of us got a king's ransom in the patent settlement, but you got nothing." Stanwood wasn't ruffled. "I'm not bitter about that either. I've done pretty well for myself. I'm not trying to outdo Fox or you or any of the guys in our class." Stanwood leaned forward and gestured to Jim with his drink. "I need you to think about what I'm about to do and what I'm about to say, not some ancient history bullshit. Fox is dangerous. Epsilon was his screw-up. I had nothing to do with it. If Fox is unwilling to leave Angel City and every other major metropolitan sector of this country, then he should be forcibly removed. I think he's a danger to himself and others. Period. End of story. Commander-in-Chief asked me to keep my mouth shut in there today. I'm going to do my best to do just that. But before we go in there and preside over this mess, there's one thing I'd like to ask you. As you mentioned, I didn't participate in Fox's little testing session. But you did. You convinced that lunatic to go steal a sword from the school trophy case and cut your arm off with it. From what I understand, being healed with a blue goo permanently stains the scar and the affected skin. For example, Wendell has a discolored blue area he hides under that blue wrap. Are you making a point? Croswell asked, taking another swallow. Well, I've recently got wind of a technology that can remove those sort of stains, in a rather unique sort of way. Is that a fact? Interested? I'm fine, thanks. Does it ever itch? Stanwood asked. I'm told there's something of an itchy or burning sensation often associated. I'll give you a burning sensation, Croswell laughed. Stanwood turned to Von Kalt. If Fox gets out of line, the left knee. Yes, sir, Von Kalt said, finishing his drink. Croswell laughed. This is going to be great. I'm not afraid of Andrew, Stanwood said, finishing his drink. It's Ross you ought to be afraid of. Why should I be afraid of a dead man? Stanwood asked. Oh, didn't you hear? No body at the scene. Must have gotten out the back. I'm guessing he's pissed. There was no out the back, Von Kalt said. We spent 3 hours in that hovel. There was one door. Guess you missed it. Fire department found it easy enough. Croswell set down his glass. It was almost 2/3 full. In fact, it seemed there was more alcohol left than Stanwood had originally poured into the cup. Croswell smiled. Please don't do anything stupid in there, Joe. Like the president said, if Andrew can really blow up buildings with a thought, let's not set him thinking about it. Okay, you know what? For old time's sake, I won't say a word. I promise, not a word. Let's just see what happens. Stanwood extended his hand to shake on it. Croswell nodded and shook hands with a guy he'd known almost as long as he'd been alive. Look at it this way. If Fox blows us up, you can always say you told me so. Croswell laughed. Stanwood smiled. You know I will, and the devil will make me a trustee in no time, and then where will you be? Under my forky thing, that's where. Stanwood and Croswell laughed as they rose to head out to the waiting transport. Fox and King returned to their vehicle and hovered above the city until just before noon. Using the micronics, Dr. Fox pulled up the children's charts in his mind's eye. The dedicated satellite found them close to home, running down a canyon path with Jack. The nearby individuals were all children. No adults were present. Fox leaned back into his seat and watched the traffic drift around the cruiser. After all the other incoming parties had arrived, they touched down and secured the craft. King exited behind Fox and, invisible, floated above him as he entered the briefing hall. A moment later, Fujidozo gave the signal for departure. With the hatches sealed and loading ramps disconnected, the facility jettisoned from its docking station. Chapter 16, Rusty Bucket. Thursday, June 25th, 2308. The clamshell-shaped hall was dominated by a mahogany table at the lowest level, opposite 2 rows of 6 tables each, arranged in gentle curves before it. The tables held pitchers filled with water and microphones set into slender vases at the center. The bodyguards stood behind the chairman's assigned seats. The second row of delegates sat on a higher tier, so the standing mercenaries didn't obscure them from the front. The outer shell of the hall was composed of tinted sheaves of glass, attached to massive hinges at the far sides of the room. Outside, a wide balcony held cafe tables naked against the sky. Fox entered the alcove at the back of the hall and found Croswell and Stanwood waiting for him. Stanwood's shadow, Deputy Director Von Kalt, was nowhere to be seen. Was the mole hunt necessary? Fox asked. It would seem so, considering, Stanwood said. Considering what? In the past 2 hours there were over 100 treasonable acts committed, 30 suspects are already in custody, and another 20 have been terminated. I suspect that by the end of business over 50 people will be charged. It's a resounding success. A mole hunt with 100 suspects means the problem is systemic. Can't be rooted out in a single pass. It's a corrupt culture, not a cure, Fox said. Stammet rolled his eyes, but Croswell laughed. Is everyone here? Fox asked. The Varshava convoy never showed, Croswell answered, but everyone else did. It looks like they all brought their donations, too. So we going through with this, or what? Stanwood asked. Yeah, let's get it over with, Fox said. Fox, Stanwood, and Croswell entered the main hall, walked to the center dais, and took their seats at the table. Congressman Harris stood and addressed the room. Gentlemen, he said, as I look around today, I see some of the most influential men of the world. Senators Clark, Gray, Miller, Citizens Morgan, Roth, Anderson. I dare not leave out the youngest personage present, Harris grinned. Citizen Pierce, you must be hardly out of your teens. Pierce was obscured behind 4 mammoth crates of cash. He certainly seems interested, doesn't he, Dr. Fox? Harris said. Fox had heard about the young Pierce. He had an explosive temper and a penchant for gunfights. He had no doubt the cases were props for some idiotic outburst. Harris addressed Pierce directly. You know, the installments are just a show of good faith. It goes straight to the Treasury Department to offset operating costs. Fox doesn't see a dime. We're all interested in the success of this project. Harris spoke to Pierce, but Fox suspected the words were meant for him. Before Pierce could rise to Harris's challenge, Senator Clark cut him off. Let's get to it. We all know why we're here. He nodded to Fox, gesturing for him to get started. Yes, Senator. Fox stood with exaggerated slowness. He slipped his chair into place and came out from behind the table. It wasn't sabotage. It was the interface. The human variable is too unstable. It's over. Okay, but unstable how? Senator Clark asked. Initially, it discriminated based on intellect. The smart ones survived and acquired more power than they knew what to do with. Ha! We could call it life, Harris joked. A few delegates laughed. We could, Fox said. In the end, they all died. What was the initial ratio? Senator Clark asked. Ratio? Fox replied. Success to failure, 1 to 1, 2 to 1, the senator inquired. 1 to 1, but that's irrelevant. Today it's 1 to 40,000. Clark conferred with Senator Miller and Congressman Harris, who held and pointed to sections in the summary of Fox's report. After a moment, they returned their attention to Fox. What's interfacing? Congressman Harris asked, reading from the table of contents. What? Fox asked, surprised. He realized the senators were fully aware of the project, but they were going to make him lay it out for them. You said interfacing, Harris asked. You called this the mental-computer interface, is that correct? Fox scanned the crowd. They weren't scientists. They had no idea what he was talking about. Harris, Clark, and Miller knew everything, but no one else did. They hadn't read the report. After all, this was the briefing. Jack and Jeff escaped Ashley's line of sight while she had been distracted by the kiteboards. She ran off after them, frustrated to have let them get away. She had no problem chasing after them. She kind of enjoyed the responsibility, except when Jeff got into something before she could stop him. Then she resented the authority and the responsibility. From around the bend and down a shallow slope, she heard Jack barking. Jeff and Jack had disturbed a group of older boys doing tricks on their hoverboards in a shallow forest bowl. Ashley rounded the corner and slid down to where Jeff was being lectured. He looked scared, and Jack barked wildly. Above the racket, Ash heard a familiar voice. When the older boys saw her, they forgot about Jeff. At their center was Evan Dunkirk. Ashley stopped a little distance away. Jack ran over to her. She knelt to pet him. She was old enough to understand the differences between men and women, and knew that physical beauty could cause strange reactions in people, especially boys. She was aware she possessed this characteristic by the way people behaved around her. Young men had a tendency to stare, and adults would speak more politely or be more reserved around her. It allowed Ashley to be more reserved in general. You ought to keep that thing on a leash, Evan snapped at her. Ashley had also noticed that not all the attention she received was positive. Why's that? She asked calmly. 'Cause dogs in the park have to have a leash. Those are the rules, and you know it. Evan popped his hoverboard against the ground. It hummed as the charge built up. Those same rules say hoverboards need a leash, she said. Evan took his foot off the board and it shot toward Ashley. She didn't move. It missed her, but only by a tiny bit. See? Where's your leash? She asked. Jack pursued the board across the forest floor. What's your problem, Fox? Evan asked. You, Ashley replied. No, I'm the solution. Evan's friends gasped, chuckled, and giggled at her. "Oh, that's a threat?" Ashley asked. "Yeah. What are you going to do about it?" he taunted. Ashley smiled. "I guess I'll let you live, this time." Evan's friends burst into laughter. In the distance, Jack wrestled with the board, which continued to slip away from him. "If that animal slobbers on my board, you're going to have a real problem," Evan growled. "Jack," Ashley called the beagle. Jack trotted over and sat next to her. Evan's board continued to drift away, sliding downhill. "Come on, Jeff. Let's go somewhere else," Ashley said. "Yeah, come on, Jack," Jeffrey echoed. "You're not going anywhere until someone goes and gets my board." Ashley looked at the board. It had drifted a good way down the canyon. In the distance, she saw two other kids playing at being soldiers, creeping up closer to the confrontation. She looked back to Evan. "Go get it yourself," Ashley replied, with all the condescension she could muster. Evan's friends snickered and laughed. He glared over his shoulder at one of the laughing kids and snapped, "Ricky, you think it's so funny, you go get it." "Why me?" Ricky replied. "'Cause you still have a board unless you want me to knock you off of it." Evan took a couple steps toward Ricky, who retreated by sliding away. "I'd rather hit a fat kid than a girl," Evan roared. Ricky turned and angled down the hill. Ash saw Doug and Jamie moving along the tree line, a few feet behind the bigger kids. Doug signaled two kids she hadn't seen yet. She spotted them hiding near a dense thicket of brush. Ricky gained speed as he approached the board. He scooped it up from a crouched position and made the wide turn back uphill. He bounced his board a few times, charging it to gain some elevation, and coasted back toward the group of kids. Suddenly, something big and heavy came flying toward his head. He wiped out, both boards flying away from him and sliding downhill. "What the hell?" Ricky yelled, already angry. "Who threw that?" Jack growled and began barking again. Ash slid the choke chain around his neck. "That's right. Leash your bitch," Evan said. He stepped forward, his arm raised overhead, close enough to swing at her. Ash remembered how he'd punked Bobby. She didn't flinch. The canyon went silent. Even the birds made